people that were lost and for their families, please, for a moment. Silence. Thank you, everyone. I don't think in our history we've ever had to have a moment of silence. Let's hope we never have to have another one in my memory. I don't know about the rest of you, but so we will move on to Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Thank you. Has that flagpole always been? Oh, yeah, I know. It's the first time I've ever noticed that it's jammed up against it.
Next item on the agenda, I will call for public comment. If there's public comment, now would be your opportunity to comment. This time I hear or see none, so we will move on to our next item on the agenda, which will be the famous consider of the resolution that we've all been living by here for the last 2+ years. And so, and I think staff, would you like to comment just possibly as our last one, please, legal counsel?
Sure. What we have on the agenda is to consider and reaffirm the resolution making the finding pursuant to Assembly Bill 361. And by the end, when I'm done kind of going over the discussion about what will happen after 361, the board should adopt that resolution because we actually have one of our directors participating remotely. But what I wanted to do is the governor has announced that effective February 28th, the COVID state of emergency is going to end. And that is a requirement for using AB 361. There's two prongs to AB 361. We're in a state of declared state of emergency, and then there's some social distancing and health issues, which is prong 2. But prong number 1 is going to be over. So what does that mean for the board? It means that we can no longer hold board meetings as we have been doing for the past 2+ years, which is under the requirements of AB 361. So effective in March, the board will have 2 options for teleconferencing. So one option, obviously, if a board member's not going to be here, is just to not attend. But if a board member wants to participate by teleconferences, there's 2 paths. One is the pre-COVID rules that we operated under before we had AB 361. I'm just going to summarize those really quick. That's one where a director needs to let staff know in advance that they're going to want to participate by teleconference, because one of those requirements are you have to have the teleconference location identified on the agenda. So you have to put it on the agenda. The agenda has to be posted at the teleconference location. So wherever the director is, needs to post the agenda at that location. The teleconference location needs to be open to the public. So if you're in a hotel, unless you're going to have your hotel door open for the public, find a public space at the hotel. And there's often conference centers and things like that, because the public has to be able to participate. So you'd have to have, if you're on your phone, you have to have it on speakerphone so the public can participate. A quorum of the board members that are around here need to participate within the boundaries of the district. And then all votes need to be taken by roll call vote, which is what we do now. So those were it was used sparingly, but that was always the case if somebody wanted to participate by teleconference. Okay, that was the simple rules. Now we get 2 pages, so be ready. For the other option is under a new law, AB 2449, which became effective January 1st, 2023. And I'm going to walk through those requirements. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little cheat sheet at the end that's just going to kind of briefly compare the 2, because there's some differences that this little cheat sheet might be helpful. But so I'm going to walk through these requirements. Number one, a quorum of the legislative body must participate in person from a singular physical location clearly identified on the agenda, which is open to the public within the district jurisdiction. Easy, right here. That would be, we would just do it in the boardroom. Number two, the director who's participating by teleconference has to participate by both audio and visual. So just like Director Coverdale's doing right now, we can see him. That's a requirement under AB 2449. You have to have your video on to see your face. The next two are what we do now, so these aren't new. The public must be able to participate in the meeting in a two-way audio visual platform or two-way telephone service or live webcasting at the meeting. So that's what we do. We've been doing under 361. And number four, we must give notice of the means by which the members of the public may access the meeting remotely and offer public comment. We do that on our agenda. So that would continue to be a requirement. If there's a disruption, number five, if there's a disruption in the remote participation, we basically can take no further action. We have to stop until public access is restored. So interestingly, I kind of looked into this a little bit and this is for the public. So if the public loses access, then we have to stop. But if the director loses access, we don't necessarily, we could stop as a courtesy, but we don't have to. It would be just like a director leaving the room right here, right? We just lose that.
So clarification, when you say the public is, so let's say 25 people are listening remotely, surely they don't mean that if one of those, their internet drops off, we have to stop the meeting.
If the public, and by the way, there's a bunch of unanswered questions because it's new and it's complex.
Yeah.
We're going to learn along the way. But my reading of the law is if the public cannot participate remotely, we need to stop and see if they're going to have access. Now, I don't remember a time when we've had 25 people like usually.
No, but what I mean is the difference that our feed goes offline, which means nobody can access it, or is it that their home internet goes offline? And I think that's a pretty salient difference because if we do have remote individuals and then now we're suddenly responsible for their internet connection, that's problematic. Whereas if ours goes down and it's no longer accessible to anyone, that's quite different.
I'm losing track as usual because of my extended age or whatever that is.
So
This is only if we're doing something where one of the directors is not here.
Correct.
Not if it's a normal meeting. What if we have Zoom for the public? Even though all 5 members are here, that's a different problem.
We are not operating under AB 2449. And so we don't have these obligations that I'm going through right now. This is only if a director wants to participate.
Only if a director wants to participate remotely, do all this stuff kick in. So,
good point.
Ergo, if you can't make the meeting, then you just don't make it. And the other guys, as long as they're a quorum, we have a meeting. So it sounds like we all have to be back together again as much as we can for the meetings. Exactly. Unless we have some extenuating circumstance, that means we can't be here. I mean, that's my sense of this. And certainly the way I would approach it, if I were not able to make it and not give you guys all this stuff to have to worry about and all the public have to worry about and all the remote stuff we have to do. So is that sort of?
That's absolutely true.
Okay, I'm just checking.
Absolutely true.
Because 2 pages of this is going to drive me, into disrepair. And I just want to be sure I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is voluntary.
Got it.
But if a director wants to participate in a conference, then it becomes mandatory. One of these 2 options.
I got it. Okay, thank you.
Shall I stop?
No, keep going.
Keep going. I want to hear the rest.
Yeah.
Not hear what our government's been up to.
Yeah.
This is insane.
So anyway, that's a great question. We'll look into it. My reading is we got to stop. We'll have to play things by ear sometimes if we're in this situation. Okay. We're up to number 6. The director who's participating remotely has to identify whether there's any individuals with them who are over 18 years of age in the room, and the general relationship of that individual to the director.
Sorry. I guess what I'm trying to understand is who developed this and what were they thinking?
So this is legislation that was passed.
No, I'm totally with you. I want to know who wrote this.
Who needed this? Who needs this?
Yeah, which one?
God help me if I'm someplace and I have to be at that meeting and I can't make it, and I want to go through all of this to make the meeting. I guess you gotta be.
And if you're with your girlfriend, you're really in trouble.
I'm just trying to understand.
All right, ready for number 7?
Yeah, let's have it. You've got us all on edge.
I know, this is good stuff. There's limits on how often you can use AB 2449.
Right, on top
You
of
can use it 20% of the regular meetings,
relief.
3 consecutive months. So you can do it twice.
Basically,
For us.
in a year, in an annual.
Twice in a calendar year.
But the other option doesn't have a limit, does it?
Correct. No.
Okay, keep going. This is very fascinating.
Here's an easy one. All action must be by roll call vote. So anytime there's teleconferencing, you use roll
I
call vote.
read this and I couldn't.
All right, number 9, you can only do it for 2 reasons. Just cause and emergency circumstances. Now here's page 2 to describe what that means.
Yes, please. What's a just cause?
Okay, just cause for one of the following reasons. Childcare and caregiving need of child, parent, grandparent, sibling, spouse, or domestic partner that requires remote participation.
Sure.
Contagious illness that prevents attending in person. Need related to physical or mental disability. Travel while on official business of the district or another state or local agency. So there's sometimes I've had this happen, not here, but at other agencies. Aqua has a conference back in Washington, D.C. And depending on when that falls, we've had directors who are at that conference participate remotely under AB 361. So those are the reasons for just cause.
Okay.
And if you're going to do this, you should let your staff and me know as soon as you can, but it can be as late as the start of the meeting.
Oh, wow.
Right. So if you.
Because we're not having to publicly notice it. We don't have to put it on the agenda that you're.
Correct. So we would go through some of the process right at the beginning of the meeting.
So when Chris is providing childcare in Hawaii, he can call.
Let's try a foreign country.
The director would have to let other people know there at that.
No, that's the difference. This one doesn't.
This one doesn't require that. And I'll get to that cheat sheet in just a moment.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, no, there are differences.
So that's just cause. Emergency circumstances.
Yeah.
Okay, so that must be for a physical or family emergency that prevents attending in person. Now, the main difference between emergency circumstances and just cause is the director must request that the board allow the director to participate, and the board must take action. So if it's emergency circumstances, it requires action by the board. So you must just generally describe this circumstance, but you don't have to disclose any medical diagnosis. So this is actually an exception to the Brown Act because it's not on the agenda, right? But if you need to do this, this law allows you to do that. All right, so that's the summary. So now the cheat sheet. Okay, just a few of the basic rules. The remote locations must be identified on the agenda. It's required by pre-COVID, not required by AB 2449. So you don't have to have anything on the agenda. The remote location must be accessible to the public, required by pre-COVID, not required by AB 2449. Must the agenda be posted at the remote location, required by pre-COVID, not required by AB 2449. The requirements for in-person board participation, there's no requirement under the pre-COVID rules. So all of you could be at different locations remotely, as long as you're within the majorities within the jurisdiction. But under AB 2449, a majority must be in a singular location. So stating a reason for teleconferencing, pre-COVID rules, don't have to do it. You're just participating by teleconferencing. AB 2449, just cause or emergency circumstances.
But if just cause an emergency and there's someone over 18, is that better to declare that or not?
Yeah, you do have to declare that.
Just checking.
Yep. You're getting it, Bob.
You getting it?
Disclosure of those present at a remote location. One step ahead of me. Not required by pre-COVID rules, required under AB 2449.
Okay,
Limits on the number of times you can do this, no limit for pre-COVID, for us, 2 times
annually.
per calendar year. So those are your rules. And you can either follow these if one of you wants to participate by teleconference, or as Bob pointed out, if director who's not going to be here in person just doesn't attend, you don't have to follow.
Okay,
Excuse me, we have Director Coverdell, comment?
I just was going to say, I promise I'll never do that to you.
Mary and I are looking forward to implementing this at some point. We just don't know when. And by the way, I have heard that there is rumors that there's going to be some amendments to AB 2449 because people don't like it. Because people don't like it. It's too complicated.
yeah, well, make it simpler.
It was kind of a rush because it's like, what do we do?
I don't know. Okay, so we just have to vote tonight on doing
A motion.
361 for tonight.
361, correct.
For tonight. But the next time, we don't have to vote on this.
Next time you won't see
Anything.
AB 361
So we're living by
unless
that rule.
the governor doesn't declare the emergency over. Then my recommendation is if you can operate under AB 361, it provides great flexibility. We should do that. But once AB 361 goes away, we will not have this on here because you just can't do it.
Once it goes away, okay, but ask Mary then, going forward with the new rule, are we allowed to do Zoom things for the public?
Yes.
Some, even if we all have to be here. Essentially, we all have to be here except for very, very extenuating circumstances, which none of us would probably bring into play at that point. But the public is still allowed to come and they live by the same rules we always have and not a big deal or anything like that.
Correct.
We lose
The board
service, it's
may
not a big
still
problem.
allow,
We lose Zoom, it doesn't matter. None of that. Okay, just check.
the district may
Are
still
we
allow the
planning
public
to
to
do
participate
Zoom
by
going
Zoom.
forward?
Yeah, and we have our PCT on Zoom, so they're,
Oh, okay, so we're planning to be accessible by all, but we hopefully will all be here at all the meetings.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, these rules only apply to board members.
Thank you. And I think to wrap it up, I clarify for the public, this pertains to all elected officials in the state of California, correct?
Correct. It applies to
Yeah, not just-
any body that's subject to the Brown Act.
Right.
Because these rules are in the Brown Act.
Very good.
So should I go ahead and make a recommendation then? So I'd like to make a motion that we reaffirm by motion, that's me making a motion, here's my motion. Resolution 2021-06, making findings pursuant to Assembly Bill 361 that proclaims state of emergency continues to impact the ability to meet safely in person. Did I do it right?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, call for the question, please. We'll do a roll call vote on this final
Director
one.
Coverdell,
Yes.
Director Feldman,
Yes.
Director Reynolds,
Yes.
Vice President Michelson,
Yes.
President Moore.
Yes. So ordered on this agenda item.
It's been a while since there's been any humor in the meeting, you know? I'm just thinking, we got people to smile and laugh over it. It was very interesting. I know, it's very positive.
Let me present a little, if you want more.
Do some more, come on.
You don't get paid by the minute, you get paid by the hour, correct?
But bonuses by jokes.
Well, I guess we'll have to look at our mileage per diem to see if it increases to get here from off of Main Street, off of Main Street. Okay, thank all of you very much there. So we will move on to item 6, the consent calendar. And if I may, legal staff, will keep you talking for a moment here on the item L down there. Would it be proper for me to abstain, or am I eligible to vote on the consent calendar?
You can vote on the consent. calendar.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you. So at this time, any other board member interested in the consent calendar items?
I can make a motion that we accept the consent calendar.
It was reviewed and approved by Director Reynolds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I reviewed the finances and all appeared to be in order.
Thank you. And we'll have a
Yeah,
motion
and I made a
I
motion.
think it's-
and a second by our 2 directors. So all in favor for this approval of the consent calendar. We'll do another roll call vote.
Director Coverdale,
Yes.
Director Feldman,
Yes.
Director Reynolds,
Yes.
Vice President Michelson,
Yes.
President Muller.
Yes, so ordered, and we will now move on to item 7, which meetings attended, and I think I would like to start. I will, oh, there goes something happened here.
You've been
I
detitled.
guess your name tag went.
Just ready, thank you. Too much paperwork, but we can start and go back a little bit, if I may. I've attended the Aqua Region 5 board meeting down in Seaside, California on January 27th. And Region 5 board goes all the way down the coast and up the coast, and they do a wonderful job. And Bob was on it in our chair, wonderful from Valley Water. And just I'll go through it as brief as I can, but it was quite lengthy, how hard everyone is looking to work closer with the open space districts and agriculture, because they're very concerned about food production in California. So it was quite interesting. And I have a comment about that a little bit later on. And then also very interesting, Floyd Wicks is from Montecito Water District down in Santa Barbara area. And they've gone to desal. And boy, they've done a great job. And I don't know if you're familiar with it, Mary, but they're trying to put together a tour soon. And that would be quite interesting to see the area down there. And they're saving millions and millions of gallons of fresh water. So I thought that was quite interesting. And then February 2nd, we had the infrastructure presentation out in Princeton, and it was well attended by, had to be 150, 200 people in that room. No fire department was there for limitations, but all the political parties and all the involved nonprofits were there, and Caltrans was there, and Ken and his wife attended also. You can make a comment, and then Mary. I think the key was luckily we had seats, but it was quite interesting. And I talked to a couple of the elected officials that if they ever have a real infrastructure thing, I'd sure like to see Coastside County Water included in the discussion, or at least on the panel, because play a vital role in delivering fresh drinking water in the future here. So go ahead, Director Coverdale. Would you like to make a comment on that meeting?
Yes. I think we owe a real word of thanks to a former board member, Ron Michelson, who built that building. And it used to be kind of a private dance party spot, but it was fantastic, in my opinion, to see it utilized in such a great way. The community presence was amazing. Lots of people there, very interested. Thought Lenny Mendonça did a fantastic job emceeing the panel. I thought our elected officials spoke well. It was a little disappointing with Caltrans just because the person who showed up is more representing Marin. But I guess she's apparently going to be in charge of taking care of Highway 1. So it was just great. It was a wonderful presentation, and seriously, the facility was fantastic. And I think our current board member, son of Ron Michelson, is still responsible for providing that indirectly. So I just a big word of thanks. What a great meeting spot, and so beautiful right there in the harbor, kind of the end spot for fresh water. So I really appreciated it. And John saved us a seat. Mary was there. It was just great.
Thank you.
Michelle Dragany has her hand raised.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to let you know I was there and I actually recorded the meeting. So if you didn't see it, you can listen to it. It's not on Facebook. Caltrans does not have a D4 representative. Crystalline Geet, the head of the chamber, walked up to the very nice lady who came from Marin and pointedly asked her, who is the D4 representative? And she finally said, you don't have one. So I just wanted to let you know that. You can bring that up with Crystalline if you like. She's in Sacramento right now at a chamber conference. Thanks.
Thank you for participating and filming that evening also. Excuse me, it was quite a crowd and a lengthy meeting and quite interesting in the comments for all of us that were involved in the disasters here on the coast. And we're talking about floods and power outages and technology. Well, Mary, excuse me, you're there. You could comment about the comments, the questions were being asked to elected officials, right? And next steps.
So it was I think it was very interesting, and each of the speakers really had a lot to say, and lots of promising ideas from it. But it was a good I was really impressed.
Good. So also, any other meetings attended by board members? I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah. Ken, thanks for your kind words. That was very nice of you. Thank you. Yeah, and I do hope at the end of this, like you said, Mary, that they do follow through and deliver a looped fiber as opposed to one-way fiber, because this coast goes down my bank.
Yeah.
I make a deposit in my bank. At the end of the day, they have to drive over to Pacifica to log in to the day's banking. I mean, is that why are we operating like that in 2023? So hopefully our elected officials deliver. And I've met Ray Mueller a few times, and I really am really hopeful that he will, be the supervisor who really finally delivers to the coast. I think he really has taken an interest here on the coast. So hopefully he can affect some change here. So that would be great. So back to the meeting I did attend. Most recent BOSCA meeting was very, very positive. Steve Ritchie was very, very happy to inform us that the Hetchy system is completely full. The spillway that we had the opportunity to walk at Calaveras is flowing. The water bank is 100%. Anything that doesn't show, and we'll see a chart later on in Kathleen's report, anything that is not at 100% is by design in anticipation of snow melt. So the Hetchy system is looking real good, and even the state is looking much, much better than our last meeting. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, two other items that will show up. I know, Mary, I think it shows up in your segment. We did also refi bonds, and boy, we saved a fortune. How they were able to lock in that interest rate from so long ago, it's just over 2%. So maybe Bosco learned a thing or two from us, because I know we saved a fortune here when we refied our bonds. So it was really nice to see that it was done at a much larger scale, which will benefit all 26 of the member agencies. And if I was a betting man, and I'm not, but I'm guessing the Democrats' 2024 candidate for presidency will more than likely be our current governor, Newsom. So therefore, in order to clear his calendar, he has really accelerated the timeline for the negotiated settlement. I mean, he is promising us a draft EIR by the end of this year. We'll see. So that was good news that we could potentially see a settlement in 24, maybe, which would give all of the member agencies here, a little. It would just make future planning that much easier, because right now there's some real, with curtailment, that's just an evil unknown, and it could be devastating across northern California. So hopefully we'll have some resolution there. And having fought a really tough re-election battle here, Bob and I, we've got another 4 years here. So
he might not have done it just out of the goodness of his heart. without any ulterior motives or other things?
Oh, I've bet
I mean,
I'm betting on the ulterior motive.
I'm just not sure.
So we may actually see the results of that. I know I go back to BAWA, which predated Bosca. So this would be huge.
Great.
And we'll see.
Let's hope.
Completed there?
Yeah, we'll see. 25 years to see something like this through. Thanks.
Well, if I may, this is a John Muller, not a board presentation here. I've had the vision coming out of Aqua, driving up from Monterey and the traffic in Castroville and the slow drive to get home in Santa Cruz and all that good stuff about flood control. And you go back in our history, Higgins Creek, Higgins Canyon here by the fire station and Arroyo Leon Creek, and the serious flood damage it did. All of us here in Arroyo Leon neighborhood over here lost some backyard issues, huge flooding issues with stormwater back there. Well, going back in the history, Casanelli had 2 dams up there by the Juicy packing shed. And they were with open space were required to open them up and not restore water anymore for agriculture. And I think we have to look at that in the future as a community especially now it looks like the state is getting a little more flexible for reservoirs and safety, flood control. And I just want you to know that I'm thinking about how can the community work to get those dams back in working conditions, because that would really help the community. Possibly it could help agriculture without a doubt on north, west, and east side of Highway 1, and also the golf course. So that would be just my comments on flood control and for our neighbors in Arroyo Leon. And let me tell you, our farm with the 2 merging Villarcitas and Arroyo Leon, serious damage. And we can talk about that on the next agenda item, but I did go to FEMA yesterday, Director.
I had 2 meetings, 3, I guess. I passed my backflow, but thank you. I looked at a pipelining technology that for one of our pipelines. What was the street? What's the creek we're crossing? Medio Creek. And
where they're putting in a new path out there, correct?
Yeah, this was more of just our pipeline that's shall we say, moved into the vintage category.
Yeah.
And it was a really good meeting, and I appreciate staff involving me to bring me out, look at it. I thought that a lot of the thought that had gone through, the thing that I think the board will really like is that we're looking at moving a decimal place down in the cost of a creek crossing. And this is a pretty big breakthrough. I think in water industries, we're really very conservative about new technology that could bite us in the rear if it gets wrong. But it's really, I'm very proud of watching the water district very carefully look at something that could, that I mentioned, move a decimal point in the correct direction. So that was really exciting. And then the second meeting segues into the next item on our agenda, which is the emergency resolution. Chris and I were able to inspect some of the damage. And I think that it's been on our capital improvement chart as a known item. And I'm really proud of the fact that the water district had on our spreadsheet that it was already there as an item that we knew we needed to spend money on. And so this wasn't a blind side. It wasn't a surprise. The timetable has been accelerated by Mother Nature, but I'm really proud that we had already thought about it. Chris and I looked at it and both shook our heads and said, yep, we'll need to move that forward. And I'm really pleased that the district has looked at it. In Highway 92 impacts this community, as we've all learned from the giant sinkhole and traffic exercise we've been playing with. And the way the water district has worked on how to work on our pipeline that does run parallel to 92 to minimize impact to the citizens, I think is really something that the public, the constituents should be very proud of. So those were my meetings.
Good job. Thank you. And you know, you professionals are in the room here, and I was fascinated by it and nosy too. I happened to run up and look at the cemetery to check on Edith's mom there, just to see how the flood did there. But I looked across the Royal Leon Creek and Royal Leon here, and there's two huge steam pipes were blowing. People thought it was a fire. And so people were asking me, where's the fire? Where's the fire? And I'm like, well, it's in the ground. Something's going on. Long story short, I jumped in the gator and drove over to Royal Leon, and the city of Half Moon Bay invested in that community over there to put a sleeve in the stormwater old pipes there, but I guess it has to be heated. I was fascinated by that. I've never seen that before. And to improve the flow of that stormwater, but that was steam. It wasn't a fire. So you professionals know that, but I've never seen them with the steam system like that. Big boiler and getting that done. So just for public information, that's what it was. So you guys are aware of it. So thank you for that expertise there. So I think moving on now, we're going back to, as Board Member Reynolds commented, our next item on the general business here will be item A, which is very, very interesting and complicated. And I get kind of hint to our state senator, I think you did too, the other night or February 2nd meeting out there about we're looking for some assistance in here, folks. And FEMA meeting, I did sit in on a FEMA meeting yesterday, and they were wonderful staff from FEMA from Texas, and they couldn't quite understand the Californians. There were no tornadoes, we told them. Feels like a tornado that fled. But anyway, please continue on here on item A.
So at the January board meeting, we informed you of the damage that we had on Highway 92. And also I informed the board that I would be authorizing repairs under the general manager's waiver for emergencies clause. And I would be reporting back. So we've incurred about $155,000 worth of expenses to date, which you have in the staff report. But in early January, the County of San Mateo, the City of Half Moon Bay, the state of California and the federal government all declared emergencies. So the district actually, technically falls under the County of San Mateo's declaration. But, staff has drafted the attached resolution authorizing my actions. And then in recognition of the federal, state, and local declared state of emergency. So we are looking for applying for grants for the storm damage, and particularly with FEMA. And we're looking at applying for the restoration of the pipe in the section that was with the storm. So it would be the middle section, which is directly impacted by the storm damage. And we feel that this resolution is a good document for us to attach in a grant application. I will say we've engaged a firm, Launch Consulting, who actually helped us last year with our ERP. But they're helping us to guide the grant process. But as of today, the County of San Mateo has been designated for individual FEMA assistance, but not yet for public assistance. So we are waiting. We're hoping in the next week we can put in an application. We're one of very few counties who haven't been declared for public, but we were told that you have to reach a threshold of like 3.8 million of damage, and they easily got that with the sinkhole and the various things. So we're told that they should be getting it, but it's just we're waiting, and any day, and it's a very quick turnaround that we need to that we'll be taking to put in an application.
So I'm sorry.
I'll go ahead.
It's for individual. Support individuals who've lost homes and whatever,
right?
But not public agencies like us.
Not yet.
3.8 million for the.
Well, that would go under the public agency. Yes.
That pumps it up.
Yes.
That pumps up. the two numbers that you gave us, 152,000, that's part of what we would ask for?
Well, for
Because we've
some,
got a couple of things on the agenda that are
yeah, for
doing
some,
other work that are associated with this stuff.
yeah.
Will they also be included?
Some of the expenses will be. I will say though that when we start talking about the pipeline restoration, we're talking like $3+ million just for that section. So it is a big number, a very big number. And we do have EKI working on various concepts, and we'll want to talk with the facilities committee about the design, and we'll likely be bringing a design proposal to the board in March.
We're going to talk, I'm in the
Yeah.
So I want to move that we adopt this.
I think you got to read it, Bob.
Yeah.
You got to read it.
I move that we adopt, consider resolution 2023-02, authorizing action by the general manager in recognition of the federal, state, and local declared state of emergency due to the late December, early January winter storm event.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion moved and second on this agenda item. Any further discussion? Do you have a comment? If I see no discussion, I'm really concerned, and I think the FEMA should understand not only for fresh drinking water, but the fire flow is very important for that neighborhood up there. And we're providing that great service to them, and they have to realize, because I understand they do not have proper fire flow at this time. Is that correct?
It is much reduced.
Pardon me, sir?
It is significantly impacted by the work that we did, yes.
Okay, thank you. And I think the public needs to know that's why we are pushing this resolution, hopefully with our elected officials to help us get this thing moving and get some funding to help this community have protection. So we'll have a roll call vote if there's no further discussion.
Director Coverdale,
Yes.
Director Feldman,
Yes.
Director Reynolds,
Yes.
Vice President Michelson.
Yes.
President Mueller.
Yes, and I'd like to thank staff for all the work and energy they put in to get this resolution going.
Mr. President, is Coastside Buzz's hand up? Or is that from the last comment?
Sorry.
Yeah,
That's all right.
Thanks, Ken.
I didn't.
You're welcome.
it was a holdover from the original.
Oh, that's it. Okay, perfect.
Then would you like to make a comment then? Is it still appropriate?
No, we
No.
go on.
We've moved on.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
go on.
That's what I thought. All right. So we will move on to the next agenda item. This is also our general manager's report, or am I missing one here, James?
Yep. We will have James present.
Okay, I'm sorry. Welcome, our superintendent here of operations, James.
Thank you. So this is the next phase of fixing the issues that we had on 92. In summary, about 600 feet of our 12-inch welded steel main was undermined and suspended above the creek. We took some quick action after the storms in early January to cut and dewater this to keep the load off of the pipeline, and we've had to jump it with a 2-inch piece of poly. Okay. As you could imagine, 12-inch replaced by a 2-inch. We had EKI do some calculations on pressures. We can handle the domestic, but the fire flows are significantly impacted to 3 hydrants that are east of Sun Studios. So this is the next phase where EKI is going to be subbing out some geotechnical work for 3 creek crossings in phase 1. We're calling that the emergency restoration project. This will handle restoration of that stretch that we have highlined with a 2-inch piece of poly. And then future phases is going to be in a separate agreement.
Ken, bro, wake up.
Because that is not considered storm damage, but work that we need to do anyways, and we're after completing the whole thing. So this is for the geotechnical borings to design the HDD, the horizontal directional drilling under 3 creeks. Is in phase 1 for the emergency restoration. And then in phase 2, we got 2 other creeks. And phase 1 is 63,400. Each crossing takes 2 geotechnical borings, so a total of 6. Phase 2 is 54,200, and that is for 2 crossings, but one of them is much longer, so it's 5 borings. So I just want to explain to the board why there is the difference. This is the same geotechnical sub that EKI used for the Florecitos Crossing. And they did a great work. They're very qualified. And this is the next step to get restoration of service at Highway 92. So we're looking for, I believe it's 2 actions, Patrick? Or is this one, can they do this in one?
They can do it.
It's one.
Okay, so Exhibit A shows the first phase for the emergency restoration for $63,400 for the geotechnical work. And then phase 2 is Exhibit 2 at the end of the staff report, and that is for $54,200. I'm available to answer questions if you have any.
Any questions of our speaker?
I've got a question.
Okay,
With my question, again, the same question. I didn't mean the entire pipeline, rebuild. I meant the first phase, the emergency pipeline restoration project 63-4. Would that be something that would be considered part of the?
Yes.
That's not on the 2 that you showed as samples.
Yeah.
Okay,
But that would be part of that.
okay, fine.
Yes.
So what will be going on as is appropriate?
Hey, Ken,
Because of
Chris's
this
hand
one.
is up.
Okay, fine. Thank you. That's what I meant.
all right. We have one more comment, a question. Go ahead. I see the B there, but I'm not sure of his name.
Chris Evans.
Oh, Chris Evans. All right. Your opportunity to comment and question right now, please. If you're still with us.
You're on.
You're on mute.
You, Chris.
And then what about
So go ahead.
Bob? Marley?
We should just ask if they still have comments.
Yeah.
Looks like Chris Evans still has his hand up.
Okay,
Oh, sorry. That was my mistake.
no problem. Go, please. Go ahead.
No, he said his mistake.
It's a mistake.
I didn't mean to raise my hand. Sorry.
All right.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I'll make can I make a motion?
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's any more public comments.
All right.
Ken, did you have something?
I was just going to move that we approve the professional services agreements with EKI Environment and Water Inc. for 1 geotechnical investigation for the Highway 92 potable water pipeline emergency restoration project and 2 geotechnical investigation for the Highway 92 potable water pipeline replacement future phases of the project.
I'll second it.
How about we lay off the smokes, Ken?
Sorry?
So how about we lay off the smokes?
Can we move to
Is this guy Marley like a comedian or what?
Yeah.
I was just trying to like.
The public until.
Yeah, you're lighting it up. Are you blowing a spliff over there, Bob?
Okay, let's stick with
Director
business.
Coverdale?
I'm sorry, what?
All right, I
Yes.
think we should keep it professional, guys.
Yeah, I think you should.
Mute him.
I'm talking about you, Ken.
Cut him off.
Thank you.
All right, and it looks like the others are muted also at this time. So we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion from the board?
No.
If not, I will call for a roll call vote for this agenda item,
Director Coverdale?
please.
Yes.
Director Feldman?
Yes.
Director Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Michelson?
Yes.
President Mueller?
Yes, so ordered. Moving on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you, James, for your professionalism there. All right. Now we will move on to item C, please, of the agenda. And I believe I might get this one right. This is Mary.
Yeah, well, yes.
James is here to back you up too.
Yes, so the district has used analytical environmental services. They're now called Montrose, but they've used them since 2010. And they originally prepared the EIR for the Denison San Vicente project. We've been using them for environmental services over the last several years again. And our last proposal was back in 2020 for $110,000. They've used up all that money. And so we need to have them continue to work with us on our permitting efforts. And so will be $54,500. So we asked the board to approve this proposal.
Okay, so any other, we'll have a motion if we want to move forward on this item that authorizing the general manager.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we authorize the general manager to execute amendment to the professional service agreement with Analytical Environmental Services Incorporated, Montrose Environmental Solutions, for environmental consulting services to the Denison San Vicente Water Supply Project for a cost not exceeding $54,500.
I'll second that. It's been moved in second. Any further discussion on this agenda item? If not, roll call vote, please.
Director Coverdale,
Yes, enthusiastically.
Director Feldman,
Yes.
Director Reynolds,
Agreed?
Vice President Reynolds.
Yeah.
Sorry.
They've been elevated.
Sorry. President Mueller.
Yes, so ordered. And we will now move on to the next agenda item, item B again here. And if I may give you a little background, we did have the letter. He has a long history. He's our neighbor to the north here, very supportive of all Region 5 board members, and he kind of coaches me as much as he can. And he's, I think, very interested to ensure that the insurance operation works as best as possible. Mary, you've involved in this, and I'd like to have you make a comment about the Aqua insurance, please.
Yes, well, this is actually, a very important committee within Aqua, and so there are 2 vacancies open. And with this, we would be concurring with the nomination of Jack Burgett, who is currently the president of the board of North Coast.
Yes. And I think it would be a good selection if elected to that position for all of us on the coast. So any interested? Otherwise, we would like to have a resolution presented. Let's keep getting, we'll stick to business here. Go ahead and call for a motion. Oh, you know what? I could make it. And I'd like to, because I work with Jack at the Aqua Region 5 stuff. So I'd like to move to adopt resolution 2023-01, concurring the nomination of Jack Burgett of North Coast County Water District to the Executive Committee of the Association of California Water Agencies Joint Powers Insurance Authority, Aqua JPIA. So moved.
I would second that.
Moved in second. Any further discussion on the agenda? Motion?
Semper Fi.
Yeah, see, I wear my Navy hat when I'm around them, just to mess with them a little bit. But so get a roll call vote, please.
Director Coverdale,
Yes.
Director Feldman.
Yes.
Yes.
Vice President
Yes.
And we will,
and President Mueller.
yes, and so we will notify him as soon as possible, Mary, or we have to notify.
Yeah, I will notify.
Thank you.
Okay.
So that concludes those 2 items there. And now we have informational number 9 reports, general manager's report, please.
Well, you've already had this report.
I couldn't resist. It's a significant number. You can please read the number out loud.
Yeah, but basically with this refunding of these bonds, it will save us $82,000 a year in interest.
Yeah.
Or is basically our Bosca bond surcharge. So this is it's really great news for us.
That's great.
And so overall saves $27 million for all the Bosca agencies.
What are we gonna do with the 27 million afterwards? Like, are we gonna put into?
Excuse us.
Sure, it's actually appropriate for the public to comment on an item, and
But I
he's
thought we had to call for them to ask, not just.
right. We can, but it is
there a rule that they have to use a real name?
no.
Oh, okay.
No. So as long as he keeps it on the agenda items, I think we need to let our public provide comments, and the board can either respond or not respond. It's up to the board.
Okay, the public member that was interested in commenting, go ahead and make your brief comment, please.
Yeah, I was just gonna say with the funds that we're saving, how are we exactly, like, what are we spending it on afterwards? So like giving back to the community, how are we gonna spend it?
Staff, would you like to respond to that? Because I'm sure a lot of public are not aware of.
It's already included in our budget.
Yes.
Yeah.
The housing been spent.
Yeah, the 81,000 is included in our budget already. The 27 million that we referred to goes across 26 agencies all over the Bay Area.
We share it with our fellow.
So we have our small portion.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hopefully that answers your question, public.
Yes, sir, thank you.
All right, we can continue to move on.
Ken's low-key cheese to ask the question, but it's all right.
Okay, now we can mute.
Yeah.
What? Sorry? Can you repeat that?
Next item on the item.
I don't know, Ken just keeps winking at me.
No.
So we could either mute or we could take a quick break. Stop the recording. If we'd like.
Let's go recess.
You want me to record, stop them?
Yeah.
Why don't we take a quick break? It's 7:56 and let's take a break.
Recording
I
stop.
think Ken needs a smoke break.
I would like no more little
Stop.
chief comments, please, at this time.
We've stopped the recording.
Yeah,
Now let's try to mute all
we'll
participants.
stick to business items.
Yeah, thank you.
No personal items. Okay, so we have a 5-minute break.
No.
Ken, you mute.
We'll just take a quick break while we mute.
Adjust.
You've got a hand raised.
Recording in progress.
Okay, I'd like to ask legal counsel for some direction for a
Yeah.
moment.
Thank you. So we're back from break. And what we're going to do is mute all participants, but we still want to encourage the public to participate on items that are on the agenda that are appropriately related to the district business. And so we ask the members of the public who would like to comment on any of the items that are on the agenda to raise their hand. And then what we will do on our end is we will unmute you so that you can comment at the appropriate time. Okay, and so I would now recommend we just continue on with I think we were at the superintendent of operations report. Is that where we were at?
Correct.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
So at this time, we'll ask our superintendent of operations, please, to take the podium.
Thank you. I'm happy to report the Grandview Water Main project is nearly complete, less some punch list items. Casey Construction did a great job out there and our inspector was fantastic. So it's another successful project. Thanks for your support. Pillarcitos wells have been running at 650 gallons a minute. Our investment in the well field has been paying off throughout the season. We've been working with a leak correlation system that we found that works pretty good. We're going to be sharing that with Mary tomorrow, and it has helped us not dig up leaks. So every time you break ground, you're in 7 to 10 grand, and it's really disappointing to tear up a street and then everyone looks in the hole and there's no leak. So we've had about 3 or 4 instances already just with the loaner system where we have not had to break ground because these correlators listen for noise. Headquarters reports to us if there's noise or not, and if there's no leak, there's no leak. So it's another good piece of technology that I'm sure Glenn's familiar with that we will be looking into further. It's been a great system. Purisima Hills over the hill has also been using it. We've been partnering with them.
I had personal experience with that leak correlation system. Recently, interestingly enough, and found out that we have more water sources than we think. I was at the corner of my Burning Tree Road court where I live. I noticed a leak over the sidewalk for some time, over 2 weeks after the rain had stopped. I thought perhaps there was a leak in the user's property's water line or something, but they had already checked it. There was zero flow most of the time. And they came out and noticed that I was correct. It's still there. It turns out we have a spring on the corner under a large tree of some sort. So there's an aquifer or something under that property that just keeps letting water come out. So we have a spring on Burning Tree Road. I just thought it was pretty interesting, and the correlators confirmed that. So they do work, I guess. So it's interesting. I thought I'd give you a little news.
Yeah, and just for the record, we know that we have a hand up, but we'll continue with our report, and we will go to the public when Mr. Durbin concludes his report, and we can respond to any questions at that time. So,
okay, thank you. I'm also happy to report that the treatment staff has completed the American Water Works Partnership for Safe Water voluntary program and have received their Director's Award for the Nunes Water Treatment Plant for their efforts. It's a voluntary program. You make a commitment, you submit data. There's a committee that reviews the data and your reporting, and then they give us feedback, and then they make recommendations in support of most of the work that's happening at Nunes is really happening out of that. Adding turbidimeter at the end of the Sid Basin and other optimization of the treatment process. We're also going to do Denniston, and I've signed up the distribution crew, and they're thrilled about it, and I'm going to help them a lot with it. So it's just another way to recognize staff's efforts. January source is Pillarcitos Lake and Wells. The Nunes project is moving along. They are getting more promising information about parts and valves. We are likely going to be tearing into filter 4 in the next few weeks or months. And also they replaced the header piping coming into the plant and a variety of other pieces of equipment. So we're happy to have them back, and they are doing great work as they have been. Anticipated work over the next month, welding of some air scour piping, coring of the holes for the air scour piping and the filters, and finishing the sludge piping connection, caustic soda testing of the pipeline pressure, and pipe supports, instrumentation for the plumbing for the pumps. So the filter to waste system is coming together. The pumps are there. This has yet to be tested. EKI, Grandview's pretty much finished. Mirami's Point Road is 100% design complete. And the half-moon tank replacement project, staff is combing through the last 100% design before we give them feedback to get a construction set. And if anyone has any questions, I'm available.
Okay, and we do have a member of the public who has their hands up, and now is the appropriate time to unmute. And we can hear from our member of the public.
And please state your name and address that's appropriate to ask for.
Hi, my name is Chris Evan, and this is kind of unrelated, but is Ken a part of the general public or a part of the corporate? Because I'm just getting direct messages from Ken, and they're quite rude. I'm not appreciating this. Are the messages recorded as well?
We're not getting them on.
Yeah, we're not understanding the comment at this point. I'm not, as chair. He's asking for a recording.
There's no chat.
Okay, there's no chat. So let's move on to, thank you for the comment. Let's move on to the Water Resources and Informational Report. And we viewed everybody public. And again, at the end of the report, if you have any comments from the public, please raise your hand and we'll unmute you at the appropriate time after the end of the report.
Hello. So as Director Michelson referred to, SFPUC provided all the BOSCA member agencies with the first initial water supply estimate by a letter, and it's attached to the staff report. But basically, the news was very good, as Director Michelson said, that the regional water system should fill by April 1st. And San Francisco is anticipating that they will be able to meet full demand of all the BOSCA agencies. But there's no change to the status of the emergency declaration for the drought. That won't happen until April at the earliest. So we're still in the water shortage emergency. As far as the drought status across the state, the U.S. Drought Monitor is showing improvement every week. There's even a small portion of Northern California, it's shown in your staff report, that is not in drought. And there is no part of California right now in exceptional or extreme drought. So it varies between abnormally dry to severe drought. And in the county of San Mateo, we're in moderate drought still. And it looks like most of the Hetchy upper country is just abnormally dry. So it's definitely improving week by week. Let's see, I think that's about it. Just good to see the improvement in the drought and our water supply, and we'll wait till April.
Yeah, so the April, is that because that's when the last snow report is done? Is that, what's the significance of April?
April 1st is supposed to be the peak of the snow season.
Got it. Okay.
And it's supposed to have snow melt after that. Now, all the water managers right now are crossing their fingers that we don't get a heat wave and prematurely melt all this snow that has accumulated. We want to keep it cold and we want a slow melt off. But that's where the April 1st date comes in. And then San Francisco's kind of built that into their agreement with all the agencies. And they'll say by April 15th, they will let us know what the final.
The Water Resource Control Board comes out on the 1st or thereabouts, and then.
No, this is all San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
This is all San Francisco. I'm not sure what the timetable is for the state.
Okay.
I don't know if they even have one. So yeah, this is all San Francisco. The April 1st and April 15th date are all within San Francisco's operation of the regional water system.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. I'm right here in town. I've recorded over 22 inches of rain.
Yes.
I have pretty close, I think.
Yes, that's what my records show. So we are, and I'm tracking it for the water year. So starting October 1st to today. Yeah, we're basically, that's about as much as we get would be our normal, about 23, 24 inches per year. So So we're really close.
Yeah, I have it documented by the day, but I'm pretty good. I got a little gauge. I don't have fancy gauges, but
Yeah.
it's still a pretty accurate.
A lot of progress.
Yeah. So thank you, Kathleen, for that. And let's just hope we have a mild spring so we get that trickle effect,
Right.
as you said, for the snow down here. And we're going to have to keep working. And I appreciate the attachment here because I'm going to try to reach out with SFUC regarding their president of the board. Happened to serve on the regional board with me a number of years ago, Nusha Ajami. And I'd like to reach out and see if we can reconnect a little bit and see if we can come down for a visit.
That would be nice.
Notwithstanding all the good news and the
Yeah, right
things
now.
we're hearing, we're still under the emergency declaration, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Correct. So we have no ability to back off of the present regulations on the table until further notice. So just to keep it straightforward.
Yeah, we do have the ability, since our local sources are in good shape, we could modify our existing ordinance if we wanted to, if the board wanted to pursue that. I mean, we still have to stay in a stage 2 and we're still in a water shortage emergency, but we could modify the ordinance if you want.
We leave it to staff to make a recommendation if they felt that that was what we wanted to do. At this point, I wouldn't urge you to do that. I'm just asking if there's any interest in doing that. We would need to know from staff. But right now, it's what it is. I was just trying to make sure we're all on the same page. Thank you.
If there are no other comments from the board on this particular item, Water Resource Informational Report, we do have some hands up from members of the public. And so we should allow the members of the public to comment on what they just heard from the Water Resources report.
Yes.
So you can unmute them. That would be, now is the time.
Go ahead at this time. Looks like it's Chris.
All right, we can hear from the members of the public now. You would need to unmute yourself because we've unmuted, giving you the.
Chris, you can go first. Sorry.
Oh, no, you can go first. You can go first. Sorry.
Okay, I'd like you to identify and move on with your comments, please.
Okay, again, my name is Chris Evan. And I just wanted to ask, so related to the drought, how many people are part of the, like, percentage-wise of your employment regarding this project? Like, how many people were of the African descent?
This is not related to the item, but thank you for your comment. Would the other member of the public like to make a comment? Evan?
You didn't quite answer my question, sorry.
It's not part of the agenda. So as their legal counsel, it's not appropriate to answer the question at this time because we have to stick with what's on the agenda. But thank you for your comment. Evan, do you have any comments?
Call it an evening.
Okay, thank you. Well, we have one more.
Okay.
Jim Lawson, do you have any comments? Unmute yourself. We've given you that opportunity. Okay, we can now move on to director agenda items. We've given the opportunity and members the opportunity to comment, and so we can now move on.
Thank you. And I think the general manager and I talked this over regarding Aqua's asking for our support on this SB 23, I believe it is, Mary. We would have to agendize that for the next meeting. Is that correct, staff?
I'm sorry, I missed your question, President. Is this an agenda item request?
Yes, and it's for SB 23 that would address the continued investment in California infrastructure and also for water supply and flood risk reduction. And we would bring that back to the board for discussion agenda item. Is that correct?
Well, we can bring it to the board for review. The other, issues. We could also, I could, as a staff member, put our support to Aqua as well.
Okay, well then.
So that's an option.
If you agree with that, board members, so let the general manager go for a support or looking to kind of reform a lot of the regulations that's been put on water districts over the years,
It actually seems like a good measure. I mean,
if they can pass it.
if they can pass it, is to cut the red tape.
Which I think the community is going to be facing a number of the cut the red tape issues here in the future. So I think any other board members have an agenda item comments? If not, we've had a very interesting meeting tonight. Thank you, legal counsel, for guiding us through these very legality issues that we are facing. But looks like board members, we all have to get together at this meeting, and we will be safe there. If there's no further business, I could adjourn the meeting at this time. So adjourned.
Recording stopped.